You gotta get this. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I see. Gotta get this. Gotta get this. There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, I see.
Keeps himself one move from McCarr. Down low, Cale McCarr. He scores! Sirius XM NHL Network Radio.
Which means, wait, hold up. Question for the audio engineer.
Go ahead.
Did I read that right? Discover automatically doubles all your cash back?
Yeah, that's what the script says.
So if I get a Discover card right now, I can earn twice the cash back.
Apparently. Wait. Unlimited first-year cash back match. Only from Discover. See terms and learn more at discover.com/match.
But there is a bit of good news. I've partnered with Advantage Gold to offer you a solution. They are specialists in converting your traditional assets, like those inside an IRA or 401k, into tangible assets such as physical gold and silver. Don't allow your money to be controlled. Claim your free gold protection kit from Advantage Gold. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
Amazing moments happen so much at SiriusXM. We want you to see them. SiriusXM Video lets you watch some of your favorite SiriusXM shows on the SXM app. Groundbreaking interviews, amazing in-show moments, behind-the-scenes footage, live performances, all come to life in a way you only imagined before. Plus, you can create your own personalized Pandora station based on the artist you love. And hear over 100 extra channels filled with ad-free music for every mood or occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $833 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer.
Exclusive Sirius XM show.
The name of the show is Straight from the Heart, featuring me and the Plastic Cup Boys.
Hear the latest from Kevin Hart on his exclusive Sirius XM show.
We're talking about putting in work, talking about your ladies and the expectations that they may have. Wait a second, man.
Straight from the Heart. Straight from the Heart with Kevin Hart. To hear Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or go to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly. To becoming a generational pop star. Now, Ed Sheeran is about to take you on a journey you'll never forget. With an intimate SiriusXM subscriber-exclusive concert at the iconic Stephen Talk House in the Hamptons to kick off the premiere of the Ed Sheeran channel for a limited time beginning tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on Channel 104 and the SXM app, included in all trials and popular plans. You deserve the best. With the SiriusXM Platinum VIP plan, you can unlock the ultimate listening experience in up to 2 cars and stream anywhere with 2 app logins. Enjoy our greatest content, opportunities for live VIP experiences, and prioritized customer care. Plus, get access to over 5,000 audio and video concert recordings through nugs.net. Call 844-711-8800 and become a VIP. Offer details apply. Not available in Canada.
Semifinal is on SiriusXM. A place in the final is up for grabs as England takes on Australia. Hear it tomorrow at 6 a.m. Eastern on Fox Sports, SiriusXM Channel 83, and the SXM app. And catch post-game coverage on SiriusXM FC Channel 157. Your home for soccer, including the National Women's Soccer League, Major League Soccer, and the English Premier League.
Get the SiriusXM app and listen on your phone when you get out of the car. Anywhere you take your phone, you can take Howard Stern, NFL Radio, and commercial-free music channels from nearly every genre. You never have to miss your favorite SiriusXM programs or commercial-free music. Find the SiriusXM app in the App Store or call 844-711-8800 or visit SiriusXM.com/app to find out more.
You know SiriusXM has over 100 extra channels on the SXM app, filled with ad-free music made for everything you do. Mashup channels, workout channels, channels for parties, or just chilling out and more. Expertly curated for any mood, occasion, or activity. Extra channels let you discover new music and enjoy even more variety from every decade and music style you love. Plus, you can watch some of your favorite SiriusXM shows with SiriusXM Video. And you can do it all along with listening in your car as part of our music and entertainment plan. Right now, we're offering SiriusXM subscription plans for as low as $6 a month, plus fees and taxes. Call 844-711-8800 to find out more about these amazing offers.
Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Hear the passion.
Be aggressive. Get something done.
Hear the knowledge.
The game, folks, is about two plays. That's what it comes down to.
Hear the personality.
I'm going to start here in an angry mood.
Get somebody on the radio that has made him a sports talk legend.
Does that make any sense to you? Guys are crazy.
It's Mad Dog Unleashed with Christopher Russo. Weekdays 3 p.m. Eastern on Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82. Anytime the SXM app.
Getting sad you have to run for all the UFC fight night fights on Channel 156. Plus, hear the preliminary bouts and pre- and post-fight commentary for UFC pay-per-view cards. The UFC is on your home for combat sports. Sirius XM Fight Nation, Channel 156, and SXM app.
To hear the UFC on Sirius XM Fight Nation, activate your radio by calling 844-711-8800 or visiting SiriusXM.com/go.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Drummer of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe with 28 podcast applications. If that makes sense to you, what a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! I'm always trying to get the neighborhood to get together, and then some people just don't understand. But then I realize it is 3 in the morning. That's my fault. What a great day. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers. Home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them to sit you with the good Lord split you. On a beautiful August the 15th in 2023, you can follow Big C Sports Podcast on, I'm telling you, 28 podcast applications now that Amazon has come on taking Big C Sports Podcast. Give that some praise. Google, Alexa, Spotify, Stitcher Podcast, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio Podcast, Castbox Podcast, the Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, Pod Chaser. You can also find Big C Sports Podcast on GeoSavan out of London, England, as well as India and Africa, Podtail, YouTube, Hubhopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Repod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Listen Notes, Podcast Wise, Podbang, Verbal Podcast, Good Pods Podcast, Podcast Policy, Podcast Republic, and the only one that used to scare me and then it stopped is AllFeeds.ai. The robots are taking over. Give that some praise. I mean, not praise that the robots are taking over, but praise that the robots know how to take over. Big C Sports Podcast is the only podcast in the universe where I do it all. I do it all as much as I can. I produce the show. That's #1. #2, I direct the topics. #3, I broadcast the shows. #4, I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter. And alas, I know I could use more laughter in my life. Then the commercials are done. I'm the only sports show in the universe. I do all of my commercials before the show starts. Most hour shows, they will do a 4 or 5 pauses, or they'll do the pause and then they'll do the commercial and they come back. I'm the only one that keeps going and going and going and going and going until I run out of gas. If that makes sense to you, and you don't want to run out of gas, I've done it a couple times in dim day heels, if that makes sense to you. And then the stats provided, the storytelling, I even do the play-by-play up to the line of scrimmage. ISAT formation, 4 wideouts, 5-man front, the snap, rolling to his right, rolling throws downfield. It is caught in the end zone by Jerry Rice. Touchdown, Niners! So that's going back in the past. Maybe they'll get that today when they get Trey Lance. I guess they're going to decide to make a decision on Trey Lance. I think they should stick with him and give him some time. But you know how the sports game was about what have you done for me lately? And there's a lot of talk. The Bay Area media hates Trey Lance. I don't know why. They've had so many bad quarterbacks in San Francisco, but they don't like a guy with a run-pass option. He reminds them too much of the great Colin Kaepernick. That's what it is. They don't want a guy that can run and get out of the way, if that makes sense to you. But that's their story, and they're sticking with it. And then the show is uploaded to 28 multiple podcast platforms out of New York City. And I'm in Dimdale Hills, California. And then number 10, I never missed a show since creating Big C Sports with the crew. back in the day at Salem Media. And I'm telling you, sometimes when you think about things that happen in life, you got to go with the flow. And I'm trying to go with the flow all the time. Sometimes you try doing things and it may work out, it may not work out for you. But I remember, and I just want to try and see if it's working today, because there are times when you reach out to people to see what they're doing, see how they're doing. Maybe they can talk to you about doing some commercials. The last time that I'd done a commercial with Salem Media, it was a great commercial, and I really do appreciate the way it turned out. But then sometimes things change. And so in the process of things changing, I decided that I was going to try to do another commercial with them, and I'm going to do something live. It may or may not go through. If it does go through, then that's all fair and love and war. But I'm going to give it some praise, and I'm going to see what happens when I try to do this live. But they say, is it live or is it memory race? We'll see what happens when I try to get another commercial done with Salem.
The subscriber you have dialed is not in service. If you feel you've received this message in error, please hang up and try your call again later.
Now, I did that again. I just wanted to do that because I remember in doing Big C Sports Podcast and then also just being picked up by Amazon, there were people that I thought were in my corner. And I was asking them, could we do some more commercials? And they were saying, man, you talk too much about politics. And they didn't want to support that. And now I tried to call that same producer, and you just heard the phone call. I wish him well, but I'm just saying, you got to follow your own goals. You got to follow your own subconscious mind, if that makes sense to you. Give that some praise. I wish everybody the best. But there are times when people tell you, man, you barking up the wrong tree. And then they have their tree cut down, if that makes sense to you. My tree's not cut down. It's still growing and growing and growing, and I do really appreciate that. All I do is pay homage to God. I want to also pay homage to something that's really important to me. I come from a family where my granddaddy was a veteran, and then my dad's a veteran, brother's a veteran, got nephews that serve in this great country. The Veteran Crisis Hotline, they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. If you know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone, call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give them some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. I know I do. We all need somebody to lean on. And I'm practicing my singing. I'm going to channel Teddy Pendergrass when he said, it's so good leaning on somebody when somebody's leaning back. I think he said something along that line. We want the real Teddy. We want the real Teddy Pendergrass. Yeah, everybody wants the real Teddy Pendergrass, but I do the best I can. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. Just like President Abraham Lincoln, country's 16th president, he did that same thing with the Emancipation Proclamation, and I really do appreciate that, Big C Sports. I want to channel that as much as I can. Everybody has their own plans about how they're going to do things, how they're going to make their collard greens. Some people put them in a big bucket of water, and others will take the time to put them on the skillet and make it that way, that if that makes sense to you. You know, I want to always make sure that on every Big C Sports podcast, I want to do things that pay homage to people. I really do appreciate, I'm telling you, I had a great guest on yesterday, August Wesley, the father of Anthony Wesley, and they're both great in the world of wrestling. August, obviously, a coach at Cape Verde, and also been a national champion as a wrestler. He's been in some great programs from Iowa State, Sacramento State, and then some great high school programs also where he started. But I really do appreciate them. And then talking about reparations, as I wish Anthony Wesley the best as he's attempting for the Olympics, and I think he will make it if that's my. And I want to give him praise for even trying, just trying, and not letting somebody discourage you, telling you what you can't do, if that makes sense to you. But I want to do something that's near and dear to my heart. I was talking to Al Fisher today, and he's a former agent for the Oakland Raiders, the erstwhile Oakland Raiders, back in the day. And he also does some paraphernalia where he auctions off items. And he's talking about doing an auction coming up where he is, I mean, I really do appreciate his heart. he's trying to raise funds for the fire victims in Hawaii. And we were just talking about that today. And I asked him if there's something I can do to be a help to him. And I want to just make sure that I pay homage to what he's done for me in the past. His name is Al Fisher, and he does auctions and a lot of sports paraphernalia. But he has coming up in Northern California in Dim Deer Hills at Timber Creek Golf Course. And it's the third annual. It's the Francie Vasquez Memorial Golf Tournament. It's a shotgun start at 9 a.m. Single golfers $150. A foursome $600. They provide breakfast, lunch. They call a swag, a contest, and raffle. And all proceeds go to the Moma de France Scholarship. And you can register at the Moma France, francie.eventlift.com. That's MOMMARFANCIE.EVENTLIFY.com. You can also call 704-707-4820. That's 740-707-4820. And then 916-320-3808. That's 916-320-3808. It's August 26th, 2023. And he sent me that flyer today. It's a great cause, and that's for the great Al Fisher. You know, Al Fisher was the first African-American sportscaster in Rhode Island. And I met him at a sports bar back in the day, back in 2016, I believe, and doing a sports show from a former 49ers, Bun. It was called Bun Sports Pub and Grub up in Northern California. And we were doing our show live there, and that's where I met Al, he and his lovely wife. So, just talking to him today, wanted to make sure that I got that out for him, if that makes sense to you. I want to give him some praise for always rising and shining, the great Al Fisher. Again, the first black sportscaster in Rhode Island. That's how far Big C's reach is, if that makes sense to you. I really do appreciate him. And I want to make sure that I pay some homage to the Reparations Task Force that has really taken wings all over the country, in fact, all over the world. Even Lloyd's of London should be paying reparations to descendants of chattel slavery. They insured the slave ships in the Middle Passage. A lot of people don't know about that. But I do want to say the California Task Force for Reparations, they put together an 1,100-page report. And it provides recommendations for lawmakers. And then would you know that Big C Sports, give that some praise, Big C Sports is working to make sure that happens. We're going to be having some interviews with some lawmakers here in Northern California coming up soon. I will do my part to make sure that reparations happen. I don't want to be just a guy that talks sports. And I hope that by the end of this year, that the NFL, and hopefully by kickoff, which is just around the corner, the way they had Black Lives Matter on football stadiums, they had it in the end zones or at the back of the end zone, on the sidelines. They had it on helmets. And people say Black Lives Matter, but where's my money? Because President Abraham Lincoln matters too. If Black Lives Matter, who said it first? It was President Abraham Lincoln. Give him some praise. America's 16th president. He's the one that put together the Emancipation Proclamation as he worked with Frederick Douglass. If we're really going to say that Black Lives Matter, let's honor President Abraham Lincoln, because he's the only one in the universe that championed reparations for descendants of chattel slavery. I want to pay homage to the California Reparations Task Force, because California is the world's fourth largest economy, and I want to pay homage to all the people involved with it. I want to give Attorney Camila Moore the chair. I want to give her praise. She's brilliant. Just a brilliant woman, young lady, but she's very smart, very erudite. Dr. Amy C. Brown, vice chair, brilliant, a great storyteller, an erudite man, really do appreciate his knowledge. He also has affinity with the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And then the best senator in the United States of America, Senator Stephen Bradford out of California, brilliant, really do appreciate Senator Stephen Bradford. I've had conversations with all three, and then Council Member Monica Montgomery Skeppy, brilliant, really do appreciate her, want to give her some praise. Also, Assembly Member Reginald Jones Sawyer, brilliant, another brilliant man, really do appreciate him and his effort pushing for reparations, want to give him some praise. Also, I want to give praise to Dr. Shell Gross, brilliant, really do appreciate her being on the Reparations Task Force. Also, Attorney Lisa Holder, brilliant. Want to give her some praise. There are a lot of good people that put their heart, mind, body, and soul into doing the mandate that California Governor Gavin Newsom mandated. I also want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. Brilliant. Really do appreciate him. And then also Donald K. Tamaki. Brilliant. Give them all some praise. And may they have the best effort going forward to get this thing done. That it has to be something that we all have a clarion call for. It's not enough to just say we had the meeting on June 29th, 2023 at 9 o'clock a.m. because Big C Sports Podcast is the only sports podcast in the universe that will pay homage to them every show until we pass reparations now, reparations forever. It's important. And I'm asking the NFL. The NFL is a $15 billion industry, primarily because of black men. 75% of the players in the NFL are black. So if the NFL really cares about their players, what is it about reparations that you don't want to champion the way you champion Black Lives Matter? And I believe when you're going to do it, I tend to say things before they happen. And I believe that there are a lot of good people that are going to look in the eyes of those black men that make them $15 billion and say, we care about your legacy. We care about where you come from. We care about your grandmothers and your grandfathers and your great-grandmothers and your great-grandfathers. We're not just here to exploit you. We're not just here to say, touchdown! We're not just here to do that. Because there's so many people that if we all understand where our root came from, maybe we respect the 9 series DNA a little better. All that came from the African continent. All of it. And the biggest crime America's ever committed. It was slavery. And President Abraham Lincoln, America's 16th president, he promised black Americans, black soldiers, that if they joined the Union and helped defeat the Southern Confederates and the Ku Klux Klan, that he would offer them 40 acres and a mule. And unfortunately, when President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, President Andrew Johnson came along and he vetoed the bill because he was a segregationist. He was a racist. He didn't pay homage to the people that helped the Union win the Civil War. President Abraham Lincoln did. And I'm so emboldened by talking to people from all parts of the world that are pro-reparations. That to me is so important. And I want to give those people praise, no matter what color you are. All of us came from Africa. 9 series DNA, Googled it. Black Americans or black people are the only group that have that. Most other groups have 6 series in their DNA. And that's why it's important that we champion reparations. I know we come up on the holidays and people want to celebrate President's Day, Memorial Day. We want to do all those things. But how could a just country not honor really the most decent president that the United States has ever had? And that's President Abraham Lincoln. Because he championed reparations now, reparations forever. And I want to make sure as part of Big C Sports that we do that. I know a lot of people, they want to just see black men play touchdowns. Score a touchdown! Home run! 3-point play! Old man Willie, he's going all the way. We really want to cheer when we have a uniform on. But if you really want to cheer, the Reparations Task Force in California is something that's being emulated all over the country. And for those people who say, oh, I don't believe in no reparations, that was a long time ago. You want to know, I always want to give a quiz on Big C Sports Podcast. I want everyone to pick up your cell phone or electronic device, and then I want you to Google Survivors Today Act of 2017. Not 2007, not 1917, not 1817. Survivors Today Act of 2017. And then read what it says. If you're anti or pro reparations, it says the Justice for Uncompensated Survivors Today Act of 2017 is United States legislation that requires the State Department to report to Congress on steps that 47 countries in Europe, it could be 50 states in the United States, but they focused on 47 countries in Europe, have taken to compensate Holocaust survivors and their heirs for assets seized by Nazi Germany and post-war communist governments. And we give them praise. It was black American soldiers that helped end Hitler's reign in Nazi Germany. So we're pro-reparations. And now it's time for us. And I want to give that praise. Sometimes the only people put the frown on and get reparations is just us. And it's time. And I'm asking for good people all over the world to do that because it's the right thing to do. And at Big C Sports, I love doing it. It's important to me. I live by this passage in the Bible. It's in Matthew 25:14-30. It tells of a master who was leaving his house to travel. And before leaving, he entrusted his property to his servants, according to the abilities of each one of them. And each servant received some talents. One servant received 5 talents. That's like the people at the top of the food chain. You see them, their household names. You see them in media advertisements. You hear them on television. You see them on TV almost every day when they're athletes or entertainers. Gave them 5 talents. The second one received 2 talents. That's the people in ancillary roles. They're getting their groove on. They're making some noise. And you know of them because they're in media, they're in newspaper, and sometimes they even run commercials about them. And there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of them are Hollywood TV stars. And then the third one received only 1 talent. It's a lot like Big C Sports. I don't have producers. I don't have 3-minute teleprompters. There's no producer in my ear. I don't have a research team with 5 people running me information. No one's researching my shows. I do it with my higher self. And I think when you look at what the story in Matthew 25, verse 14-30, it talks about the talents. So what are you doing with your talents? And I'm specifically asking the NFL to pay homage to 75% of the men that make you $15 billion. Pay homage to it. Yes, Black Lives Matter. All life came from Africa. We know that. Even in the Bible, Revelation chapter 1, verses 14 and 15, the book of Daniel chapter 7, verse 9 and 10 and 6, Christ had skin the color of brass and hair like lamb's wool. But what President Abraham Lincoln, he did something that no American should be ashamed of. He ended the country's biggest crime. We talk about POTUS 45 being indicted, and it's all over the news last night. Oh, he has so many counts against him. Oh, he has so many counts against him, and it's all over the news. But whatever he's done or been accused of doing, it doesn't deserve more coverage than the Emancipation Proclamation. Give that some praise. We want to talk about reporting justice. Pay homage to President Abraham Lincoln because he ended America's biggest crime, called chattel slavery. And many of us don't even give it more than a minute. But Big C Sports does, and that's why I give it praise again. I really want to be something different. I don't want to be like everybody else. I just don't. It makes me want to throw up to pretend that this stuff didn't happen. And so that I'm asking, I'm not assuming, if you assume you make a blank out of yourself, I don't want to make a blank out of myself any more than I normally do. But I'm asking the decent owners of NFL football teams before a kickoff, if you really love 75% of the people that make you $15 billion, can you at least honor President Abraham Lincoln? Because had President Abraham Lincoln not signed the Emancipation Proclamation to give free black people 40 acres and a mule, then how do we know slavery would have ever been abolished? Nobody else has even reinstated what he put in order when he was assassinated. Oh, there you go again with your history. No, but tell me what president has paid homage to President Abraham Lincoln. Because if Lincoln did not sign the Emancipation Proclamation, how do we know that slavery would have ended? Not one president has had the decency to even make what he did come to fruition. He talks about reparations. He wasn't shucking and jiving. Name one president that's honored him. Man, why you always screaming, Big C? I don't scream any louder than touchdown, home run, 3-point play. Oh, man, Willie, he's going all the way for his reparations. And it's true. And I know there are a lot of smart people who are sports teams owners. I know it. And many of you own sports teams for a reason. And we know it's true. And Black Americans helped end Hitler's reign. I'm just asking for decent people to show respect and pay homage. It's the right thing to do. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Before I get into some sports, if that makes sense to you. Again, I remember if it wasn't true, what happened, and I was calling a person that I worked with in the past. He made some commercials for me. And I was calling him up again just to see if I could get another commercial produced for Big C Sports Podcast. Back at Salem Media. He's well known. But what happened when I called is I got a message that I don't mind playing because I want to be real. And I'm telling you what happened when I called his phone. It's the truth.
The subscriber you have dialed is not in service. If you feel you've received this message in error, please hang up and try your call again later.
And that's the message that I got. And I wish them the very best. But I remember at a time, like I'm asking the NFL owners, if you really love the men that have helped make you a $15 billion industry and even increasing, why would you be antithetical to telling those black athletes that we love you, we appreciate you, and we pay homage to where you come from because we all come from you, if that makes sense to you. Give it praise. It doesn't make any sense to have Black Lives Matter on the sideline when you refuse to do what President Abraham Lincoln did. Because when he said Black Lives Matter, he meant it. Now, I know some of you say, oh, Curry, that's not true. He only freed the slaves to save the Union. But he did it. He wasn't a perfect man. No man's perfect. No woman's perfect. But he had more character than any president that's ever existed in the United States. If I'm wrong, prove it. He said reparations now, reparations forever. He didn't care about us playing football, basketball, and baseball. There are times when a team wins a championship and they say, do you want to call the White House and talk to the president? They didn't call the White House and talk to President Abraham Lincoln. But he did the right thing. It's not Big C Sports. President Abraham Lincoln, he was Caucasian. I know there are a lot of good men and women out there. And I saw there was a thing where former First Lady Hillary Clinton, she was on a program, I think, with Ncaa, I think it's Ncaa. And when the indictment came across for POTUS 45, people cleared. People were cheering. Like, why are you cheering? There are people saying, I'm so happy. Happy for what? What are you happy about? There are people saying they're happy. Well, this is the man who tried to wreck the election. And now he's going to have to pay the price. We don't know. Everyone has a due process. But why are you clapping for that? And then ignoring the Emancipation Proclamation where President Abraham Lincoln promised us reparations. That's what you should clap for. Because if you're not doing that, then you're just as bad as people who are anti-reparations. You tacitly consent to it. Don't be tacit. Do it. That's what I want to see us give praise to. I'm very passionate about it. Because there's a lot of good people in this country. And we got to do the best part we can. And I know that we get sucked up in football watching black athletes play. 75% of the NFL is black. 80% of the NBA is black. The two most powerful leagues in the United States. But not one pays homage to President Abraham Lincoln. Except for Big C Sports. You can give me praise for that. I'm not second and driving. And why are you anti-President Abraham Lincoln? And I know someone's going to do it because there's a lot of decent people. And they're going to say, you know what? Big C's right. It's not that Big C's right. It's that President Abraham Lincoln was right. That's why I say give him praise. I know you want to see who won the game, but this stuff is important. It's a clarion call for decent people. And it's the right thing to do. I know I've heard growing up, either lead, follow, or get out of the way. You can't please people. You can't even try to please everybody. People will love you, people will hate you. Same person. In your lifetime, most people right now, they're not friends with people that they grew up with. They're in the past. There are people right now to this day, they don't even deal with people they dealt with a year ago. And who knows what tomorrow brings? If they're people who are good for you, work with them, give them praise. But if they're bad for you, why you keep letting them in? If President Abraham Lincoln was good for the United States of America, why are we not honoring him? Why are we not honoring the most seminal moment in his most clarion call? Why are we not? But we cheer when a president gets indicted. What's there to cheer about? No matter what side you're on, people that say, oh yeah, they got him now. They got him. And don't even have the character to honor the most decent president the United States of America has ever had, President Abraham Lincoln. That's why I give him praise on every show, and I know some people are going to follow that too. I love paying homage to my beautiful family legacy, as I do every show, and I'm the only sports show in the universe that honors where I come from. Not everybody has to. I love paying homage to my beautiful mother. I love paying on my mother's side. I love paying homage to my great-grandmother. Just a beautiful, loving, kind woman. My great-grandfather, former United States military man and former Negro League baseball player. And then my grandmother, Madea, beautiful, loving, kind woman, a seer. Could look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, present, and their future. My grandfather, Hezekiah, another wonderful person, a seer. Could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about what's going on in their life. And that can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and coached an all-boys Little League baseball team to the championship in an all-man's league. Always saying rise and shine. As I hear on ABC Good Morning America, rise and shine. Best person I ever met in my life. Champion Reparations. That's where I get it from. On my father's side, my granddaddy, Albert Curry, former pastor, had 2 churches in Oakland, California, built the 3rd one in Central California with his own hands, owned 2 gas stations in Oakland, one on Bancroft, the other on Foothill. But he also owned 40 acres of land. It's like President Abraham Lincoln offered each black man 40 acres and a mule. How is it that the universe landed that my granddaddy owned 40 acres of land? And now I'm the only sports show in the universe that champions reparations. Think about that. And then my beautiful grandmother, Alberta Curry, working side by side with my granddaddy, with the 2 churches in Oakland and the 2 gas stations in Oakland, helping build a 3rd church in Central California. When I was 8 years old, walking through a hallway, she told me there's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak. And now I'm on 28 podcast applications. Nobody has more than Big C. You can Google it. I can't make this stuff up. Oftentimes, if you're with mainstream, they'll try to push guys out there to tell you, oh, you should listen to this guy. You should listen to that guy. Listen to this lady. Listen to that lady. And without that show pumping them, they may not even exist. Nobody's pumping me other than my agency. So how did Big C Sports end up on 28 podcast platforms and it's still growing? And a lot of times when I started out, people said, oh, man, you suck. Man, your voice sucks. Your platform sucks. You need a better sound system. That sucks. In fact, you suck. You need to stick to sports only. And I was talking to Al Fisher, the first black man, the first black sports broadcaster in Rhode Island in the United States of America, talking to him today. And he said, can you believe how many people have been laid off and how much the mothership has grown before laying people off? Talking to a friend that started with ESPN back in the day. And he said he can't believe how many people have been let go. Some of the people that I was with back at Salem Media, give them a phone call now. And I'm saying it because it's real. I'm looking for better ways to do things too. I don't act like I know everything. But what I do know, I want to share. And there are times when I've called other brethren in media that only talked about sports being linear. That's like going to a restaurant and all they have are tacos. Now, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with tacos, especially on Taco Tuesday. In fact, today is Taco Tuesday. I'm not saying anything wrong with tacos, but it's nice when they have collard green Tuesday. That's what I'm pushing for. Collard green Tuesday. That's when you see me in line. But I'm going to do this one more time because it's real. You can't make this stuff up. I called one of the biggest producers, and everybody knows his name, in Northern California, to talk about producing another commercial for Big C Sports. And this is what I got.
The subscriber you have dialed is not in service. If you feel you've received this message in error, please hang up and try your call again later.
And that's unfortunate. So for people, I'm just saying, no matter who you are, if you want to do something, you got to trust yourself. You got to trust that God has given you the permission to do what you got to do. Because had I listened to that guy, that his phone number is disconnected, then I wouldn't have a show. Because he was the gatekeeper. He decided who got on the air, and he decided who didn't get on the air. And now he's off the air, and who knows what's going on with him. I talked to him about a year ago. But it's all fair in love and war. That's why I'm trying to get people to champion reparations so we can all do what's better for this country. And that's what President Abraham Lincoln did. I'll give that some praise. And again, I want to thank my father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, making sure that planes can fly high so we could all stay safe at night. My beautiful brother Todd. Well, I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. My beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice. Sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. Always saying go forward. A voracious reader. Really do appreciate Todd. And then my beautiful daughter Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. Graduated with honors in 3.5 years, 2 degrees from a major university. Beautiful, intelligent, erudite. I always say Isaiah 54:17, no weapon formed against you will prosper. But in life, there are times when people will create confusion, and some people get off on that. But God is not about confusion. And Daisy is so important to me because she set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast. And that interview was set up at Salem Media. And many of those guys have been laid off. And there were many of them that were so critical. Oh, man, just take the sports. Just read the scores. And they're out of work. Why am I still growing? I give praise to God. That's why I keep asking for that $6 billion. It's going to show up somehow, some way. I have no doubt in my mind. Because a lot of times the people that have spoken bad about me, they don't even have work anymore. I'm not wishing that on anybody. But I say all my life, God has blessed me. I still got things that I want to see come to fruition. All it takes is one yes from God. I heard Tyler Perry talk about that before, one yes from God. But Daisy set up the very first interview for her father at Big C Sports Podcast. And from there, we went on to become the first time in the history of the country that the NFL started broadcasting NFL Monday Night Football on the Wall Street Business Network. It had never happened before. But it's like all the people that turned against me, they're off the air. I'm not saying it has anything to do with me. But all I do is give God praise. And I'm going to keep praising until I can't praise anymore. Daisy, I love you with all I have. Be everything you want to be. Just trust God. Don't worry about people. And my very handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. Going to be a senior this year. Very smart, erudite, a good man. As I always tell you, Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Always trust God. Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get newspapers and look up stats on players for the Big C Sports Podcast. And one day, Malcolm said something that just changed the way things go with me. He said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. Now on 28 podcast platforms and 4 TV platforms. One day my son said, Dad, do you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote. He said, aim it at the TV and say, play Big C Sports. That's before it was even on the air. Shortly after that, it's on Xfinity Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. I want to give Malcolm praise for that. He spoke it into existence. He didn't wait till he saw it. He said it first. My family runs that way. I saw it my grandparents and great-grandparents. They would talk about things that came true. I was doing the Big C Sports podcast before I even had a microphone. It is just ironic that some of the guys that told me, man, you're going the wrong way down the road. You driving the wrong way. And now they're off the air. I'm glad I listened to God and not man or woman. I want to give God praise. Always have, always will since I was a little boy. I want to touch on something. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, always saying, you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. Let's get ready to rumble. I love saying welcome to the show. Every number of the Big C Sports podcast. I have no scripts. I have no three-way teleprompters. All I got is God and my higher self. And I wanna build Big C Sports podcast into a household name. I was prophesied over about 7 years ago by a lady. I'd never met her. I didn't know her from Adam. But she said, there's something about your voice. And she looked at me and she said, you're going to bring the world together through sports. And she said that sports is your religion. I didn't know who this lady was. I met her at a seminar. And she said she was a psychic. I don't know if she was true or not, but she did say what's happening now. I got people from the clergy that follow Big C Sports. I have people from politics that follow Big C Sports with the California Reparations Task Force. Gonna be talking to Governor Gavin Newsom soon. Already speaking to the top senator in the United States, Stephen Bradford. I mean, there's a lot of things that are just coming together. We talked about 6 degrees of separation. And there's a gentleman that I met yesterday from Cape Verde. I just talked to August Wesley, who was also the coach for Cape Verde for the Olympics. And then after that, Brother Liam Jabaz said, Charlton, let me put you on the phone with somebody. The brother from Cape Verde. You can't plan that. That's God's work. Not only that, he's 70 years old, and he's big time in media. I want to give him praise for the conversations we had. And that's what I'm just thanking God for. Meeting so many wonderful people, many that I've already met. It ain't about people. It's about the praise. That's why I'm praising God for $6 billion. I'm not asking man, I'm not asking woman, because they don't have the capacity to see it. $6 billion is nothing in God's eyes. I want to touch on the top 25 that'll impact the playoff future for the 2023 football season. 2023, 2 times 3 is 6. Like $6 billion, give that praise. I'm telling you it's going to happen before Christmas. Oh, Curry, you're going to look like a fool if it don't happen. I'm not talking to people, I'm talking to God. Some of those same people said I look like a fool talking about sports and politics and religion. I called their show and their phones are disconnected. But God's not disconnected, if that makes sense to you. Got the final year of the 14 playoff. We'll have a different feel starting next year. And saying the game will have playoff implications. We kick off the most Power 5 broadcast involving teams that are still running this year, if that makes sense to you. We're still in a place where a game with playoff implications carries a bit extra weight. I'm telling you, there's something about college football that I love, that I want to give praise before I get into some games that matter to me. And I'm just one person. Again, everybody has their own thoughts about what player they want to see come to fruition. I love so much about the world of college football. I've been watching it since I was a little boy. In fact, the first game that I ever saw in person was Arizona State at San Jose State. I was a young boy back in the day. But I remember seeing it up in the Bay Area. And now I'm looking at that the playoff implications that we'll very likely be talking about with the two teams that are playing in the top 25 and obviously late season contests carry even more weight. I want to talk about some big-time games around the country that'll make some noise when it comes to playoffs. I got number 25, Clemson at South Carolina, week 13. It's certainly going to be impacted by what happened in this last year. South Carolina handed Clemson its first home loss in 6 years and knocked them out of the playoffs. I got number 24, LSU at Ole Miss in week 5. This game is being slept on amidst a trick start to the 2023 slate for LSU. Don't forget that Ole Miss had a halftime lead in Death Valley last year. That's a big game. Number 23, Florida State at Florida, week 13. And why include this one? Anthony Richardson went hours without a completion in Tallahassee for a Florida squad that had a decimated group of receivers against the red-hot Florida State squad. Now Anthony Richardson's going to be named the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. I got number 22, Texas A&M at LSU, week 13. It's the regular season final for a pair of teams that will likely start in the Associated Press top 25. I also got another big game that's coming up. Texas versus Oklahoma, the last time in the Big 12, and they'll be moving into the SEC for next year. That takes place in week 6. It's the last Red River Showdown, as the Big 12 foes should be loaded with intrigue and perhaps is still loaded with opportunity. Imagine if Texas beat Alabama in week 2, or alternatively is trying to avoid that second loss against an Oklahoma squad with a very favorable start to his schedule. Number 20, Alabama at Texas A&M in week 6. Don't want to talk about how Alabama, they dropped the game at A&M back in the day. It's disappointing. A&M spent so much money on their program at Kyle Station. They stand for hours watching football games, but Alabama they're just a tough team to beat. All's fair and level. Where Alabama suffered its lone regular season loss in 2021, the Aggies could threaten to derail the Tide's revenge tour if indeed the offense takes that next step under Bobby Petrino's guidance. 19. These are not the rankings, just my thoughts going down from 25 to 1. Texas at TCU, week 11. Last I checked, it was TCU trying to put the pieces back together again after being beaten down by the Georgia Bulldogs. So I guess if a horn dog and a bulldog had a real fight, we know the bulldog would eat that horned frog for lunch. I got Oregon State at Oregon, week 13. The playoff implications for the showdown, formerly named the Civil War. Who would have thought that anybody paying attention to this rival would have Oregon going to the Big Ten? Who knows what's going to happen with Oregon State? Their last win, but they beat up on Florida 33-3 in a bowl game last year. Number 17 on my list, Penn State, the Nittany Lions at Ohio State, week 8. I know you think I should have this higher on my list, but I'm telling you, the Lions have lost 5 in a row in Columbus, if that makes sense to you. Number 16 on my list, not ranking-wise, but the game, Oregon, the Ducks at the Washington Huskies, week 7 at Puget Sound. Washington spoiled Oregon's playoff shot last year in Eugene, Oregon, and Dan Lanny's clock management also spoiled that for the Oregon Ducks. But Oregon was spoiled when they also got beaten up by the Georgia Bulldogs in the Kickoff Classic. The number 15 on my list for big games for Big C Sports this year, the Utah Utes. What's a Ute? It's a Native American tribe at USC at the Coliseum in Southern California. USC is going to go into the Big Ten next year, and Utah's going to join the Big 12. Doesn't make any sense, but that's the way love goes for these schools that don't want to promote reparations, but they want to get more money as they change conferences, like changing underwear, if that makes sense to you. The Utes single-handedly ended USC's playoff hopes last year. It's a rare that the Heisman Trophy winner returns with 2 losses to advance the same team, and that is a massive test for what USC hopes to revamp defense. I got USC playing in the Final Four this year, if that makes sense to you. And then the number 14 game, Utah at Washington. Utah's going to the Big 12. Washington to the Big 10. Doesn't make any sense, but that's what's happening. I put this game slightly ahead of Utah-USC because I think Washington is a playoff potential team this year because of Michael Penix Jr. I'm telling you, that good boy can throw the football, and I know he wasn't a Heisman Trophy winner last year, but Caleb Williams and Michael Penix, 2 best quarterbacks in the Pac-12, and then Cam Rising also should be the number 3 quarterback in the Pac-12. Number 13 game that I have, Tennessee at Alabama, week 8. How big was that game last year when Alabama got robbed at Tennessee? 17 penalties. 17. Not 15, not 16, but 17 penalties. And that's a joke, but that's the way it goes in the SEC. Number 12 game, Michigan at Penn State, week 11. How many losses will these teams have combined in the second weekend of November? Maybe 2, if that makes sense to you. I got the number 11 big game, USC at Notre Dame, week 7. Oh, the house that Rockne built. And my hope is that this biggest USC Notre Dame game since the Reggie Bush push back there and Notre Dame, when that landed and Reggie Bush, they found a way to get the ball into the end zone called the Bush push, if that makes sense to you. USC went on, and I think they went on and lost the national championship to Texas that same year because they were robbed also. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it. You got third down and 2, and you don't give the ball to the Heisman Trophy winner who's averaging 5 yards a carry against Texas. You got fourth down and 1. He gives the ball again to Lindo White, who was tired. Instead of letting Reggie Bush get a pitch out and get that 5 yards of carry that he got, I will never forgive what happened in that game. All they needed was another yard, and it was the longest yard, if that makes sense to you. And then, I'm telling you, number 10 game, Florida State versus LSU in Orlando, week 1. It could be in the preseason, the top 7 for these teams. The only reason this game is higher because it kicks off the season, and we don't know what's going to happen after the first week of the season, but it sure looks good on television. The number 9 game, I got Ohio State at Notre Dame, week 4. Did Notre Dame turning out to be a decent team help Ohio State's playoff chances as a one-loss non-division champ last year? Absolutely. What's going to happen this year? You have to see. The number 8 game, Georgia, the defending national champion, 2-time national champion. There will not be a three-peat. They're at Tennessee, week 12. There's a ton of talk about Georgia's schedule. Perhaps the only game in which is not a double-digit favorite will be at Tennessee. They may get 17 penalties also. Notre Dame at Clemson, I got that the number 7 game. It's strange to see that everyone blasts Notre Dame's schedule. It feels like the Irish could also play a tougher schedule, but they do. They play East Coast, West Coast. They're always adding USC, and then they'll have a program like a Clemson. And in the meantime, they'll go out and find someone like an Ohio State. No one can knock Notre Dame's schedule. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Florida State at Clemson, that's my number 6 game. It's week 4. It's tricky because because these are expected to be the 2 best teams in the ACC, and they can't get out of that contract as far as I know. We will see what happens with that game. The number 5 game, I have USC at Oregon, week 11. USC has a strange schedule this year because it plays week 0. So this Pac-12 Power Showdown will be the second to last week of the regular season for the Trojans. It's the last time they'll play each other in the Pac-12, and what a shame that is. The number 4 game that I have, Washington at USC in week 10. A week before USC travels to Eugene, it'll try to keep its playoff hopes alive against a loaded and experienced Washington Husky team. I'm going to be at the Coliseum. I got USC winning that game, if that makes sense to you. And then, just a little note here. Michael Penix Jr. and Caleb Williams, they get rolling. If there's a chance for any Power 5 game to have a 2016 Pat Mahomes, Baker Mayfield feel to it, it's this USC and Washington game coming up. Number 3, for big game playoff implications, Texas at Alabama, week 2. Last year's thriller when Quinn Ewers went down late in the first quarter after having a great start. And then you have Bryce Young, who's now playing for the Carolina Panthers. He used his trickery to get the Crimson Tide in field goal position, and they won that game. And we'll see what happens this year because the game this year will be at Alabama. I think Alabama's going to run away with that one by 2 touchdowns. Number 2 game, LSU at Alabama, week 10. I'm telling you, here's your fun stat for the day. Since Nick Saban arrived at Alabama in 2007, the winner of this game has played in an SEC championship 13 of a possible 16 times. They make this one 14 of a possible 17 times, if that makes sense to you. And then the big game, you can't get past Bo Schembechler and Woody Hayes, Ohio State at Michigan, week 13. Jim Harbaugh, he managed to skate out of trouble, if that makes sense to you. It's a pair of preseason top 5 teams that will face off in the regular season final. Only this time is for the top spot where the winner may take all. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want to give that some praise. Hopefully they'll talk about reparations now. Reparations forever. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you on Big C Sports Podcast, I love doing this show. I love paying homage to the California Reparations Task Force. I love paying homage to President Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States. And I hope it can find just a few more people who are as decent as President Abraham Lincoln that will say reparations now, reparations forever. And don't worry about what happened to POTUS 45. We should be paying more attention to what President Abraham Lincoln did, and that's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can call Uber. You can call Lyft. You can walk it off. You can sleep it off. Call a cab. Just don't do it. The life you save may be your own, if that makes sense to you. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Jubudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat, because all these big sea burgers, they keep me light on my feet. That's why I float like a butterfly, and I sting like a bee, and I rumble, young man, rumble. My beautiful mother always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. If you know anybody going through it, pick up the phone and call 911, because things change when the police show up. No man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, all over the universe, I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super, fantastic day. As I always do what I ask Congress to do. Honor President Abraham Lincoln. When he said reparations now, we say reparations forever. 2 more times, like your team just won the game. Honor President Abraham Lincoln. When he said reparations now, we say reparations forever. And I'm asking the NFL to do the same thing. When he said reparations now, we say reparations forever. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.